Elena Hill-Artamonova. She is a PhD student at the Manchester Metropolitan University, and her presentation title is The Role and Effects of Personality on Prejudice and Aggression. So Elena is a psychology PhD student with a background in anthropology, politics, and social psychology. Her current research is a cross-cultural comparative study of dark triad and big five personality model in relation to prejudice and aggression. So please, Elena, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So I will just start my presentation. Okay. So today I would like to talk to you about the role and effects of personality on prejudice and aggression. Let's start with personality. Who are you? Who am I? Maybe these are just some of the questions that you ask yourself or others to understand theirs or yours personality. Maybe you see yourself as uninteresting or even boring, but to me, a personality psychologist, you're just as unique as the person next to you. Let's talk more about actually what do we do. So one of the main theories around personality psychology is a trait theory. Trait theories of personality center on the idea that personality is a combination of broad traits or dimensions. Various theories have been proposed to identify which attributes or key components we have in our personality. One of the first psychologists to talk about personality traits was Gordon Allport. He was the first to describe what potential traits are with you throughout your lifetime. He also suggested that there are different kinds of traits. So there are common traits, central, and cardinal. Common traits are shared by many people with a particular culture. So if you grow up in one specific culture, you usually would share some common traits. Central traits are those that make up an individual's personality. So for example, if you're an introvert, that would be your central trait. Cardinal traits are those that are dominant, that a person becomes primarily known for their characteristics. So if someone is outgoing or someone is very communicable, these would be your cardinal traits. In this presentation, I would like to talk to you about what I do, what is dark triad, big five, or how we usually call it an ocean. I would also like to talk to you about prejudice and aggression and my current research. Okay, so ocean. So we personality psychologists use acronym OCEAN that stands for openness to experience, conscientious, which is basically your moral side of your personality, extroversion, as in the opposite to introversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These are the most common 5 traits that personality psychologists uses to assess your personality. It can be from finding the right job for you, to schools, to universities. These personality traits have a direct effect on how you're perceived by yourself and others. For example, people who have high levels of agreeableness and extroversion are people who are orientated towards communicating with other people, and they find success in that. So they will be very good managers, or they will be very good lecturers, for example. Whereas people who have high levels of neuroticism will find situation, no matter how small or big, very stressful, but find success in precision and extra knowledge. So they are very prepared for whatever's coming. Dark triad or dark tetrad is your, I would say, omnious and thriller-like personality side. It consists of 3 main traits, which is psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. In contrast to popular opinion, in addition to our normal personality ranges that I talked about earlier, the ocean, we all have these dark personality traits. We all have traits of psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism, in some people more than others. These traits allow us to make spur-of-the-moment decisions. They allow us to be adventurous and thrill-seeking, and sometimes they make us impulsive, some more than others. However, such traits can also make us turn for the worst and lead us to become aggressive or prejudiced. Prejudice. There are arrays of measures in the literature on prejudice. However, the majority of study focus on two main understanding of prejudice. It's implicit and explicit prejudice. For the purpose of this presentation, I would like to talk about specific type of prejudice, which is blatant and subtle prejudice. This is what I research, and this is what I found the most interesting. Blatant prejudice is so-called the traditional form of prejudice, and it's often widely researched by personality psychologists. On the other hand, subtle prejudice is more modern, and it is the indirect way of being prejudiced to other people. It's complete opposite of blatant prejudice. Social psychologists tend to focus on the context-centered approach to when we try to understand personality and prejudice. In particular, person-centered approach to understanding prejudice reveals the importance of personality traits like the ocean, or sometimes it can be referred to as the Big Five. It is also points in the direction of understanding darker sides of our personality and how can that contribute to prejudice. There's strong evidence from previous literature that dark triad traits strongly predict prejudicial attitudes. Now let's talk about aggression. In recent years, some researchers would argue that aggression may be associated not just with dehumanizing others, as previously been thought of, but also more with conceptual ideas of aggression. So people might not be physically or verbally aggressive to you, but they will be slightly aggressive. There will be aggression in their mimicry or in their gestures. To this day, psychologists have unfortunately not reached a consensus on universal definition of aggression. However, psychologists do agree that aggression represents a form of malevolent and negative behavior. As with my current research, this is where it comes in. I want to understand how both normal personality traits and dark personality traits relate to both prejudice and aggression in a normal range of population, so not in a clinical population. People just like me and you, why do we become prejudiced? Why do we become aggressive? My research, first of a kind, examines all the relationship in one with additional of a cross-cultural aspect. For this project, I have taken Russia as an example of a non-Western country, and I have taken United Kingdom as an example of purely Western country. The results were fascinating. We found that there is a strong relationship between both normal and dark traits in relation to prejudice and aggression, but we also find a non-standard that doesn't go in line with the current literature, the relationship between certain traits. For example, people who were high in narcissism were also high in open-mindedness, which is very rare, and I've never seen this type of results before. As for the actual current research, it was consisted of 3 studies. The first study was used as a baseline to form the other 2 studies. And the first study looked at basic relationship between the Big Five and the dark triad. And study 2 and 3 looked at the relationship between the Big Five, the dark triad, prejudice for study 2, and aggression for study 3. Because I conducted my research in Russia, as well as the UK, I had to use a method called translation back translation of the original scales that were translated in English to begin with. But because I am originally from Russia, this did not raise any issues with my supervisors or with any ethical boards. In order to kind of access all necessary information, all the necessary traits, we have to have quite a big sample size. But luckily, we managed to collect approximately 2,000 for study 1. It was approximately 2,000 Russian participants and 1,700 British participants. And for study 2 and 3, it was around 1,800 Russian participants and 1,500 British participants, which gave us a representative sample, which is very rare to get in psychology. So let's talk a little bit about the results in conclusion. As I said, we looked at a lot of relationship between the dark triads, the big five, including prejudice and aggression. And one of the main relationships that I found was psychopathy versus neuroticism and openness to experience versus Machiavellianism. This relationship did not add to original literature. So basically what it means is that they had no significant relationship between them. They haven't had anything that can add something new or original. I also compared Russia and United Kingdom, and what I found is that on the basis of prejudice and aggression and our personality traits, we are very similar. There is a slight statistical differences between Russia and United Kingdom, which I didn't expect. I expected Russia to be far more prejudiced and aggressive than United Kingdom. But I believe, in line with the current political situation in both countries, this is what it came to. Moral disengagement and social dominance orientation were used as mediators. They're basically a way to understand the relationship between the personality traits, prejudice and aggression, by using moral disengagement and social dominance orientation. It expands your understanding of prejudice or aggression. It expands them as dimensions. Yes, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. And I would love, if you have any questions, please email me or follow updates of my research team on the website or Twitter. Thank you so much.